Okay, this is ICS 321, and it's Monday, and July 26th. It's just after Thanksgiving, and I know we've been working hard to finish up our assignments and quizzes, and so I didn't really have anything new to cover today. See, let me put my screen up here. I'm going to try putting this up, and I'm going to try not to optimize for full screen video clip. I want to just see what that does. All right. So today is today we're into this dead. We're into this dead section down here. I don't want to call it dead, but so we are working on our assignments, and so does anybody? Well, first of all, does anybody have any questions on assignments or quizzes that they haven't done? So everyone's all done with the assignments and quizzes. That's listening. See, am I recording? Yes, I am recording. And two people, no chat, I guess. All right. Looks better if this is over here. Actually, I don't even know if you guys out there can see that. So I guess. So I don't end up just, I don't know where to put this. Instead of just dismissing the class now, why don't I go over what I want you to do in the final assignment, okay? And I think I covered it a little bit before, but I think maybe your minds were probably on one of the other assignments or something. I should do better next semester about that, kind of make the timing better so your interest more or less corresponds to what my lectures are. But so you don't have to hand this in till the end, and kind of the this assignment's got two purposes. One is that as far as what you guys learn, it really helps you practice the craft of the design of a database that enforces all of the constraints that you would have not only on data integrity, having anomalies and stuff, but also the kind of anomalies that have to do when you don't normalize your databases, but also business rules, the kinds of things that your company either your company or just your industry enforces. It could be accounting rules, it could be laws, and you need to put certain things in the database. Now, one common thing that they use triggers for is to record. To record updates separately than the database management functions. If you have lots of people updating the database, you may want to record those transactions, and you may want to record the updates that people make for two reasons. One, and the reason that's the real reason is because if people are doing something wrong, then you want to be able, or if there's something wrong with the data, you want to be able to backtrack how it happened, and then you want to correct it so it doesn't happen in the future. It's usually not malicious intent, but you are also able to detect malicious intent also. And like in membership databases, I've done a lot with membership databases, and you often have lots of different members that are authorized to go in and make updates to the databases or the database for a variety of different things, events or membership status or all kinds of things, for those, I've always written it in my PHP code when people are making updates. I record that transaction. I record the old data, and then the new data, and then the member ID, the person that logged in that actually completed those transactions. And the problem is after about 15 or 20 years of writing code, and you're in there making changes all the time, and then you have people that work for you going in and making changes for you all the time. Oftentimes that part doesn't get updated or corrected. If you have to go in and make some real quick change because something broke and you don't have a lot of time, so you go in and fix it, then that thing that does the updates, that records the updates, doesn't get updated. So so that's a real important thing, and I wish I would have had more assignments, or at least one assignment that had you do that, but I don't. But in this assignment, you'll learn about the code, the writing MySQL code and SQL code. I mean, it's pretty much the same with all databases. Writing store procedures, transactions, creating indivisible operations out of many, database transactions, and the way to do that. And so, so for this, you have to there's a bunch of tables, and then there's a bunch of sort of these stored procedures that I'm asking you to write to make updates to the table, and there's certain rules that have to be followed, and the code is quite. I mean, it's repetitive in that you're doing the same kinds of functions on all the tables. There's 3 or 4 or 5 tables, and there's 3 or 4 or 5 stored procedures that have to be written for each one, and I think, and so it's a good project for you to work in groups, because you sort of sit around and you figure out how to do it, and for each table it's a little different, and depending on how you decide to break up the work, you can break up the work by table, and then one person writes all the routines for that table, or you can break it up by routines, and one person writes the same routine for all the tables. So let's see what this what I ask you to do here. I haven't really thought about this either since for a couple weeks, I guess. So it involves a scheduling of the meeting of duties of this Toastmasters class, and this is the website. So I'm going to open this up in a new link so I can refer back to it. This is the website, and there are these schedules here. And so this is the November 28th schedule, which is, I guess, this Wednesday. And Harvey's the Toastmaster, and here we see some people have 2 duties. The person that's going to call the meeting to order also is going to give the inspiration. I mentioned earlier that there's, depending on the duties, you can double up or not, and when you get to that point, you can choose to account for that or not. I mean, it's depending on where you are and so on, so then so that's that, and then now right now the database is implemented as 4 tab delimited spreadsheets. And it's actually every Thursday, the Perl script generates the schedule for the meeting that's 3 weeks ahead. The meetings are on Wednesday, so Wednesday there'll be the meeting, and then Thursday the thing will run for the meeting that's 3 weeks ahead. So you always know your duty like a couple weeks ahead of time. And these are the positions. There's the presiding officer, the Toastmaster, the inspiration, and the joke master, and so on. And this says whether or not that this prep column says whether or not the, wait a second, I'm sharing my screen. Yeah, I am. Says whether or not there's preparation for that, required for that assignment, for that meeting assignment. And then you also, depending on how much preparation there is, or how much of a chore it is, you want to make sure that people don't get assigned the same crappy position every week. So there's a period in between the time, or how often you can be assigned that position. And so you can be assigned presiding officer every week, but you're not going to be assigned Toastmaster more often than every 3 weeks. Same with all these other things. Some are 2 because they're pretty easy, and so on. And so I explained that here. And so the new database is implemented in this, so far it's implemented, and I give you that's the SQL script to produce that on your website. And then I'd like you to make a set of stored procedures that for each duty, I guess my thinking was wrong. Really, I was thinking of tables or something. But there's a for each so you make a stored procedure that does the first one here, where you give it a duty, in other words, one of these positions, and a date, and a particular person in the database, and the stored procedure will return whether or not that member is eligible to be assigned that duty on that meeting date. So, it's the hard part is just figuring out the logic, and then after you figure out the logic, then you figure out how to implement that logic in SQL code. And so, these aren't very long programs or anything. They're a little bit repetitive. So you're just basically learning how to code in a new language. You're computer science majors, and you're going to do a lot of that in your lifetime if you continue to program to be technical. And computer science is one of these fields where people can get a degree in computer science and go off and work at some aerospace company or something, and you can continue to do pretty much as much technical work as you want to do, and that can include coding all the way up until you're old, and you still get promoted up and everything. And you're just you might be in charge of projects, but you're also the person that assigns the work, and you might take a component yourself to design or whatever. And I used to see a lot of that when I was in industry, where my boss was older than me, but he liked to save some stuff to design himself. Whereas if you get a degree in MIS or something, you're probably not going to be writing code when you're 40 years old, unless you just are an exception. And you find that you like more the technical side, and you choose not to get promoted up into management and be in charge of stuff and everything. Anyway, that's sort of a side thing. So you're going to learn how to write little, not very complex algorithms in SQL language, in stored procedure language, and they're real problems. They're problems that are enforcing business rules that support this particular organization. So then the second one is to actually assign a particular member on a particular date, assign that member a particular duty. And so this thing has to do this part first. This thing has to first determine if the member can be assigned that duty. And so, you would be using either this code that implements this one, or you'd be using, or you can actually call that stored procedure. And then then I want you to have an overriding mechanism just in case you want to override. Like, for example, you'll have a rule that no one is going to have to do more than one duty in a meeting. But in this case, nobody, I'm sure what it was is nobody wanted to do the inspiration, or there wasn't anybody available. So then the Toastmaster, who's kind of in charge of making sure there's a position for everything, there's someone assigned to everything, may go and ask, hey, Adelina, can you give the inspiration? And, oh, sure, I will. All right. Now, the reason we want both is simply because you would use this one. You could use this one to actually generate the list of eligible members for a particular position. You might use this stored procedure, and for a particular position on a particular meeting date, you run everybody through, and it's going to return either yes, that person can be assigned that position, or not. And then after that, you have them all, and then the vice president of education or another computer program can sort of eyeball it and then start to make assignments, making sure that, and you can come up with a nice gaming algorithm for that, where you start making assignments where you make sure that there's somebody left for every assignment, as you go down the line. And so that's when you would use this. And this thing, the first part should never happen unless you make some assignments and then things change, and then you try to assign somebody else that position. That's possible, I guess. But then here you have the overriding thing. And then the third thing is this is sort of an indivisible replacing somebody, this third one, because there's going to be somebody that's assigned to something, and then the person has to back out, so somebody else has to assign that person, and you could be like trading some positions, and you want to do you want to be able to replace one member in a position with another member in a position indivisibly, so it doesn't happen where you remove somebody from a position and then somebody else comes in and grabs that position, and then you try to assign the person you wanted to, and you're not able to do that. So that's the third thing. Let's see, this last thing, if your procedures should also consider a member's planned absence. Okay, so there's a way to mark whether or not you're absent, or whether or not you're going to be absent in the future, so don't assign me any duties. And then there's this also this thing called a preferences table, which where you can say, hey, I don't ever want to be Toastmaster. Just don't ever assign me Toastmaster. I'll come to every meeting. I'll do all the other stuff, but just don't. And then you can say that, okay, 0. My desire to be a Toastmaster is 0, so don't ever assign me that. Or I just don't like evaluating speeches. It's too hard. But if no one else is available to evaluate a speech, then you can assign me the evaluation of the speech. So you can do duty preferences like that. And so let's take a look at some of these things. If you look at the Toastmasters website, and you go in here, you can look and see this is availability, and this thing automatically produces this calendar that this could even be like an HTML document that it produces, and it's got all of the Wednesdays of all of the meetings on into the future. it doesn't look like it's shown on this calendar, but the scheduler is also, you can block out days too. You know, you want to block out Christmas and so on, but you don't have to deal with that. So if I was somebody that was coming to meetings regularly, and but I was going to be absent I was going on vacation or something, then I could come in here and check off some dates. However, if or I can have these, and in this thing I called it duty desires, your desire to do a duty, and it looks like this. And so these are all the positions, and this is how you can say what your preferences are. And so if you're somebody that's going to stay a member, but you're going to take a 6 months leave of absence or whatever, you don't want to quit the club, you'll still pay the dues and everything, but you still want to come to any meetings, then you can just set all your duty desires or your preferences to where you don't want to be assigned any duty at all ever, and then that's how you do this. So this is mine. See, so this is why I haven't been to a meeting in probably I don't know, maybe almost 20 years, a pretty long time. But I wrote this back in the 90s, and they pay my dues every 6 months if I'll keep this up. And so as long as I'm teaching, I'm able to somehow usually figure out some way to use this in an assignment or something. And I would really like to replace this thing, and then anyway, I don't need to do that. Okay, so now the new database. Let's see, I have it someplace, I think. And this is what I've given you. I've given you this, and the way I've given it to you is by this here. This thing is this. So this is the export, and there's even some triggers in here. I think I was messing around. Oh, this is a view, and there's some constraints and so on. So this is how I envision you're indicating that you're going to be absent. Well, first of all, let me show you the members. So here's some members here, and I do have some members in here. In fact, these are members from the current database, except for I messed around with the personal information. So obviously these aren't phone numbers. And so there's a member ID, and it's just I started with 1, and it goes up to how many members there are, and I'm on here someplace. Here I am. And then for absences, I can if I come regularly, but I'm going to be absent at a particular time, then this table would include that, and the primary key is the member ID and the from date. That works because you're never going to have more than one record in there that's got the same member ID and the same from date. And then the to date can be the to date. And then that's absences. And then these preferences look like this. And it's the same thing. It's got the member ID and then the duty ID. I call it the duty ID. And that's the primary key. And then it gives your preference. And it can be 0, 1, 2. Just like it is now, or maybe later on it can be something different. So if we look at the duties, it looks like this. I think I have duties in here. So this is what they look like, and this is that table that's got whether or not there's preparation and the cycle of how often you would be assigned that, and you may adjust. You would very likely adjust this depending on the size of your club. Well, you would adjust a lot of these things. We have a very large club, and we also meet every week for an hour, whereas most other clubs meet maybe once a month even, and they meet for longer. So there's a duty ID, and there's 10 duties, but there can be a 012 speaker or 012 evaluator, depending on, because you can have more than one speaker and in a meeting. And this is saying that you can have up to 3 speakers. Now so those are the things about the meeting, about the members. Here is where you would put the meetings, and I think the best way, well, you can try to generate this automatically, and probably you would if it's going to be something where, like I made it in 1996 or something like that, and then it just runs. It keeps on running every week, and nobody ever goes in there and adds new meeting dates. It automatically, computes the next Wednesdays, on into the future, excluding certain ones around holidays and so on. Trying to do that, but you'd probably so you'd have a meeting, and in later membership databases that has scheduled meetings, I've gone to an approach like this where you have a meeting ID. I don't think you have any meetings in here, but you have a meeting ID and then a start time and the date. So if it's just a date or whatever, and the start time, and you can have an end time if you want to, but it's usually perhaps determined by what a meeting is for the club, or of course you can add that. And then you'd have a location. You might not need a canceled or not. You don't have to do anything with canceled right now. Okay, so that's meetings. And then what are these views? Okay, here's what an agenda looks like, and I think I do have an agenda here. This is like an agenda template. Okay, this is like an agenda template because and then so for every meeting you go in and assign a position for each one of these for actually the distinct duty ID and multiple here, because like the three speakers are listed here, 1, 2, and 3. So it's 9, 0, 9, 1, and 9, 2 are the 3 speakers. The 3 evaluators are 10, 0, 10, 1, and 10, 2. But we see that the timer and the grammarian are in here twice because you introduced the timer and the grammarian at the beginning of the meeting, and then at the end of the meeting, the timer and the grammarian give a report. So that's why they're on the agenda twice. Same with the presiding officer. So this is an agenda template, and this is something that would be worked on. You'd set it up at the beginning of the time you set something like this up for your meeting, and you would set this up once probably, and then you'd never change it unless you decide you want to change how your agenda is. And so this is just a template used to produce what you really want to produce is these assignments. And these assignments, there's one assignment for every meeting duty per meeting. For every meeting duty per meeting. So there's a meeting ID, and that would connect off to the meeting. So there's like this Wednesday's meeting has got a particular meeting ID, and then there is the duty ID plus multiple, and so that would be 1, 0, 2, 0, 3, 0, 4, 0, 5, 0, 6, 0, 7, 0, 8, 0, 9, 0, 9, 1, 9, 2, 10, 0, 10, 1, 10, 2. So that's 14. So that's, okay, so that's all of the duties for a meeting, and then we have the meeting ID. So you can see that's why the primary key for this table are these 3 fields. And this is a foreign key into meetings. And these 2 things are foreign keys into, actually, well, these. It's actually the agenda things. It's, no, I know. The duty, it's into this. But the thing is, yeah, that might not be a very good design. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. Okay, so absences, agenda, assignments, and so you're going to have 14 entries for every meeting, or up to 14. And then, so these are the duties, and then these are the meetings, and these are the members, and these are the preferences. Now, meeting roles, let's see, what does this one look like? Okay, this is, this is like, okay, so assignments here. These two things, duty ID plus multiple, those together are like a foreign key into this thing, meeting rules. Because there's one for every one of these. But this is actually a view. And the view is, it's select distinct duty ID multiple from agenda. Select distinct duty ID multiple. So when you do that, you get and then how did I end up taking? Anyway, I ended up looking like this. All right, so okay, so the first, so if we go to the first one here for a meeting duty, a member, a meeting date, and a member, return if the member is eligible to be assigned to that duty. Okay, so let's take some member, member number one, and the meeting date is this Wednesday, and the duty is Toastmaster. So so you have to write a little stored procedure that looks at the meeting date, the member, and the duty, and return if that person is eligible to do that duty. Okay, so what would keep that member from being able to be Toastmaster? Okay, so we'll start out by saying yes, the person could be Toastmaster. But let's look and see what could keep that member from being Toastmaster. Well, if you look back one meeting or two meetings, and that person was Toastmaster, then they can't be Toastmaster because they were because they violate the period thing. Okay. Then you look forward. You should look forward too, because sometimes people go in and they assign in the future, or sometimes you might be, there might be some things assigned in the future because people go in or whatever, and you want to respect those. So you can look forward to. Look forward one, look forward two, and if they're not Toastmaster any of those times, then it passes that test. The second test is the prep. Okay, well, so you have to go look at the last meeting and see if they did a duty where they had to prepare. And if they didn't, if they had no duty, which is likely, or they were presiding officer, or they're the timer, or they were general evaluator, or the evaluator, they could be those. That's okay. But if you look in the last meeting, and okay, so if you look in the last meeting, they aren't going to be Toastmaster because they would have already been excluded. But if they did the inspiration at the last meeting, or they were the joke master at the last meeting, or the grammarian at the last meeting, or the table topics master at the last meeting, or a speaker at the last meeting, then they can't be Toastmaster. Okay, so that's the two things, and that might be it. Okay, so so if as long as as long as those two things don't apply, then the person can be Toastmaster, and you reply yes, fine, no problem, or you say yes. You return a 1. Okay, so that's Toastmaster. Well, that's like the hardest one. So let's say you want to be timer. Okay, so a particular member, a particular meeting ID. Figuring out what the last meeting is and the meeting before that. That's not. I mean, it's not that hard, but you got to think about it a little bit. You know, how do you know what the last meeting was? You gotta. It's tricky, but you can probably Google it. But you can look at the. You can use a search. Okay, let's say if you want to find the meeting just before today, you search for all the meetings less than today, and you order them in descending order. You order them in descending order. Okay, so the last meeting is going to be the first one that comes up. And then so if you need to go 2 meetings back, you can just do that twice. Okay, so for timer, so you say, okay, meeting ID, this is the meeting ID, this is the person, and the position is timer. And is that person eligible to be timer on that day? Well, it doesn't matter if the last meeting or the next meeting, if the person had to prepare, because it doesn't matter if you're timer. The timer doesn't matter because you have to prepare. However, you do want to go back to the last meeting to see if the person was timer. If the person was timer at the last meeting, then you're not going to assign him timer this meeting. So he doesn't want to be timer 2 meetings in a row. But if he was timer 3 meetings ago, it's okay. Okay, or timer 2 meetings, 2 meetings ago is okay. So period of 2 means every other meeting. Period of 1 means every meeting. Period of 3 means every 3rd meeting. So you'd probably start out by going through every person and every title, and you get an array, for a meeting, and you get a list of people that are eligible for. I've said this already. I'm just repeating it. You get for every title, you get all the eligible people, and you may start. Well, then you have to think a little bit about how you'd assign from that. Just off the top of my head, I would say you start with the smallest group first, or you start with the hardest thing to assign, and that's speaker. Now, if you have a bunch of people, you want to order them in some way, because you want to make it so you want to kind of have a first in, first out kind of thing, because otherwise, if the club is big, a person might not ever end up being in a position or taking on a position, and the person may want to. So so let's say it comes time to be timer, and sure, there's lots of people that can be timer. Well, you might want to go and find the person who it's been the longest since that person has been timer, and you assign that person a timer. So that way, if you have that algorithm, eventually somebody will be able to be in a position, because eventually they'll be the one where they haven't been in that position for the longest. Wait a minute. Do you have to worry about that? No, you don't have to worry about that. What am I even thinking? You only have to say if the person is eligible. It's up to the programmer that uses your stored procedures to decide which one they're going to assign a position. So so good. You don't have to worry about that. Maybe next time I teach this class, but that's more of a that's not database though. That's more algorithms, 311 or something. Okay, so so anyway, it's 2:17, but I won't start writing something now. Maybe next time I'll actually start writing some stuff, and you can kind of see how that goes. But I want to give you guys a chance to think about it a little bit. Also, so I haven't given you a quiz for a while. So next Wednesday, the quiz will be like telling me, you got to tell me who your group is. You know, maybe sort of. I'll ask you some questions about like where you are on this last assignment. So it's certainly enough to, if you have time, you can just find out. And of course, things can change. But I want to make sure that that's all on your radar. And so in the end, you aren't kind of scrambling. But actually, this assignment is probably something where where one person could probably do the whole thing. But I'd rather have you be in groups, because I'd like to have everybody be a part of a complete solution, handing it in, So people that maybe struggle, and that's not to say that you struggle in computer science, but you might struggle with this stuff. There are kind of people who can be database people, and then there's the algorithms type people, and the database people are more like they can see big equations, and like the big long SQL statement that executes in just one thing. It's got a bunch of nested SQL selects in there and so on. That's often different thinking than if you got to figure out, oh, you got this task and you got all these things you got to do, and you got to do them in the right order, and you got to do it in the most efficient way, and you start. So you just sit down and start writing code. But anyway, so I would like that you all hand in something that's like a complete solution, and hopefully the people that you're able to find something, and so you might not be the one that figures out the algorithm to do something, or the program to do something that has no syntax errors in it, and has all of the parameters defined correctly at the top, and you might not be that person, but you're the person who can make sure that the messages that are output are decent, or you might be the person that after you see how to do it, and you can get the next one running, and so you might do two of them or something too. After someone else has figured everything out and done the hardest one, then you do the other two or three or something. So however that works out. Okay, there's great. There's 5 people up there, and is there any no chatting? All right. So are there any questions? Okay, I think are there any questions out there? I think I will. Okay, so I guess I'll close it up now, and I'll come back Wednesday. And if you have anything you want me to cover specifically Wednesday, then let me know. Yes. Well, I hadn't planned on it, but anybody that doesn't want to be okay, so you can work alone if you want to. But if you'd like to be in a group, I can assign groups. So people that want me to assign groups, I'm happy to assign groups. And I can kind of maybe look at how you've been doing and maybe make it so you're, you know, balanced, whatever that means. Why, did you want to, did you, well, you can email me if you want to, concerned. Okay. All right, so I'll send out an email asking for people to find their groups by Wednesday, and if you're not in a group, then let me know and I'll assign you a group. I'll assign you a partner, and then people will have to tell me specifically if they want to work alone. And if they want to work alone, then you can tell me what it is you want to do or what part of it. And I'd like you to do all of them, but maybe you don't have to do something as, I don't know, you know, it's the kind of thing where after you do a few of them, doing the rest of them is pretty easy. Or it's kind of repetition, like the people who like these ones where the profiles are the same, you know, those are probably pretty similar. All right. Okay, so I will see you on Wednesday. Okay, thanks.